was supposed to be a family vacation, the first one since Eleanor Brooks lost her husband, Charles, 5 years ago. Her son Mark and his wife Dana had planned it all, a week in Florida, sunshine and family bonding. Eleanor packed carefully, excited to finally feel included again. But she didn't know this trip would change everything. At the airport, Eleanor walked slowly, clutching her cane. Mark hurried ahead, dragging the luggage with his wife and kids. "Mom, keep up. Boarding's in 30 minutes, he called, not even turning around. Eleanor smiled faintly. "I'm coming, dear," she said, though every step felt heavier. When she reached the terminal, her family was gone. She looked around, confused, heart racing. The gate attendant frowned. "Ma'am, the flight to Orlando just left. Were you supposed to be on it?" Eleanor's voice trembled. "My family, they were here." Hours passed before she finally called her son. He didn't pick up. Dana sent a short text. "Oh, sorry, Mom. They wouldn't hold the flight. We'll see you there. Just book the next one." Eleanor sat on that cold bench for 3 hours, her suitcase beside her, tears she didn't want anyone to see. Later that night, she took a cab back home. The driver, an older man, asked gently, "You okay, ma'am?" Eleanor smiled through her silence. "Yes, I just learned something important tonight." She didn't explain, but inside, she already knew she wasn't part of their family anymore. 2 days after being left at the airport, Eleanor sat by her kitchen window, watching the rain trace patterns on the glass. Her family hadn't called, not once. She wasn't angry anymore. She was just tired. She looked at the photo on her wall, her late husband, Charles, smiling beside her at their wedding 50 years ago. "You'd know what to do," she whispered. Then, for the first time in years, Eleanor picked up the phone, not to call her son, but her lawyer. "Mr. Lawson," she said softly, "I'd like to make a few changes to my will." The lawyer hesitated. "Of course, Mrs. Brooks. May I ask what prompted this?" Eleanor smiled faintly. "A trip I didn't take taught me who truly deserves what I've built." She donated half her estate to a community center for widows, the place where she'd once found support after losing Charles. The rest she redirected toward her late husband's scholarship fund for underprivileged students. Not a single mention of Mark, Dana, or their children. That evening, her son finally called. "Mom, we thought you'd fly out the next morning," he said casually. Eleanor replied gently, "I know, dear. I hope you all had fun." "We did," he said. "Maybe next year you can join us again." Eleanor smiled quietly, her voice calm, her heart steady. "Oh, Mark, I think I've already taken my last trip." She hung up, then walked to her garden, feeling the evening air wrap around her like peace. For the first time in a long while, she wasn't waiting for anyone. Her revenge wasn't loud or cruel. It was silent, graceful, and final. The morning was quiet when Mark received the call. His mother, Eleanor Brooks, had passed peacefully in her sleep. He didn't cry, not at first. Maybe he didn't know how. The funeral was small, simple, just as Eleanor wanted. A few neighbors, her old church friends, and the staff from the community center she'd supported for years. Mark sat in the front row, shifting uncomfortably. He hadn't seen most of these people since he was a boy. After the service, Mr. Lawson, Eleanor's lawyer, approached him quietly. "Your mother asked me to deliver this personally," he said, handing him a sealed letter. Mark frowned, then opened it. Inside was a single page written in Eleanor's delicate handwriting. "My dear Mark, you left me at an airport once, and I realized then I had already been left behind long before that day. I don't blame you for growing distant, but I do hope, someday, You understand that love is not measured by convenience. I chose to give what I have to those who never forgot me. At the bottom, she'd drawn a small heart next to her signature. Mark's eyes filled, his hands trembling. She changed the will? He whispered. Mr. Lawson nodded gently. Everything was transferred to charity. She said it made her feel alive again. That evening, Mark stood alone outside his mother's home, the one he'd planned to sell after her passing. He looked through the window where the light of a single lamp glowed faintly. For the first time in years, he realized how much she had loved him and how little he'd shown it back. Across town, the community center held a small ceremony in her honor. Her name, Eleanor Brooks, was etched into a plaque that read, "For those who were forgotten and chose to remember others instead." Eleanor's story spread quietly among those who knew her, a gentle reminder that sometimes the deepest justice isn't found in anger or courtrooms, but in the quiet power of letting go. She may have been left behind once, but in the end, she was the one who truly moved on. A week after the funeral, Mark sat in his car outside his mother's house, the rain streaking across the windshield. Inside the house, empty now, he could still see her lace curtains, her little rocking chair, and the smell of her lavender perfume clinging to the air. He remembered how she'd once waited by the window for him to visit, and how he never came. His wife, Dana, sighed beside him. "It's just a house, Mark. We can list it next week." He didn't answer. "She loved this place," he whispered. "She built her life here." Dana rolled her eyes. "And she left it to a charity, not us. Guess that says enough." Mark turned away, his jaw tight. Maybe it says too much. That night, he went inside alone. Every photograph on the wall seemed to stare back at him. Smiling faces from birthdays, graduations, and holidays. But in all those memories, Eleanor was the one holding the camera, never in front of it. She'd always been behind the scenes, giving, serving, forgotten. He sat on her bed and found an old shoebox beneath the blanket. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Each one began with, "Dear Mark, I hope you're doing well." And every single one had never been mailed. His vision blurred. "She wrote to me," he whispered, "all these years, and I never answered." The sound of rain outside grew heavier, like the world itself was grieving. Mark pressed one of her letters to his chest, and for the first time since childhood, he cried. Not for her money, not for the house, but for the love he had lost long before she ever left. Months later, the community center held its grand reopening, funded entirely by Eleanor's estate. A new wing was unveiled, the Eleanor Brooks Hope Hall. On the walls were framed photographs of elderly women learning, laughing, and rebuilding their lives. The plaque read, "Dedicated to every mother who gave more than she received." Mark stood quietly in the crowd. He hadn't planned to come, but something drew him there. Maybe guilt, maybe love, maybe both. The director, a kind middle-aged woman, recognized him. "You must be her son," she said warmly. "Your mother was remarkable." Mark lowered his head. "I didn't realize how remarkable until it was too late." She smiled softly and led him to a small corner of the hall. There, under a beam of soft light, stood Eleanor's rocking chair, restored and placed as a memorial piece. On the seat lay one of her handwritten notes. It read, "If love is forgotten, give it to someone who still believes in it." Mark stood there for a long time, his throat tight, eyes wet. "I believe in it now, Mom," he whispered. "I just wish I had sooner." As he walked out, the sun broke through the clouds, golden, warm, forgiving. Somewhere in the quiet echo of that hall, it felt like Eleanor smiled. She had found peace, and perhaps so had he. In the end, justice wasn't about punishment. It was about remembrance. Eleanor Brooks may have been left behind once, but her love found its way back home.